Hey, good afternoon. My name is Carl Lamb. I'm an attorney here in Bloomington, Indiana, and I've been an attorney since 1984. I've been practicing in central and southern Indiana. Today, I'm going to share something that has fundamentally transferred how my office operates. We're going to talk about integrating artificial intelligence into paralegal work, not as some futuristic concept, but as a practical tool that you can use starting tomorrow. I'm sure many of you probably use AI already. But what I'm going to do is talk to you about my use of AI, in particular, a few models, Notebook LM and Claude are just a couple that we'll be talking about here today. Now, is additionally, what I want to talk to you about is this kind of paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift is that we want to think about how you've spent your time, let's say hypothetically, over this past week. How many hours did you input in manual data entry? How many hours reviewing documents, page by page? How many hours on tasks that, while they were necessary, didn't really require your professional judgment? On the left side of the screen, you'll see kind of the traditional paralegal row. It's administrative focus. You're extracting data, you're entering information, you're doing repetitive tasks that have to be done, but don't leverage your knowledge of the law or your understanding of case strategy. Now let's look on the right side. This is where we're headed. The AI enhanced paralegal isn't drowning in data entry more, is instead you're verifying AI generated work, you're analyzing strategic implications, you're functioning as a true partner of attorneys who you support. Now, let me explain what I mean by a force multiplier. Is in military terms, and I am a Marine vet, a force multiplier is something that dramatically increases the effectiveness of a unit without adding more Marines. That's exactly what AI does for legal work. Now let's look at these three concepts. First, AI accelerates tasks. Things that used to take hours, summarizing a 40-page deposition, creating a timeline from scattered medical records, organizing discovery responses, AI can literally do in minutes. Not instead of you, but for you, so you can focus on what really matters. Second, AI enhances accuracy. When you're reviewing your 100th document of the day, human error creeps in. You miss things. AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't lose focus. It maintains consistent performance across thousands of pages. Third, and this is crucial, your professional judgment combined with AI capabilities delivers exponentially greater value. The AI doesn't replace your brain, it amplifies it. Here, the mental motto I want you to hold is technology excels at pattern recognition and data processing. Humans excel at nuanced judgment, ethical reasoning, and strategic thinking. When combined these strengths, you become an indispensable strategic uh, partner, if you will, in the legal practice. Now, is that let's talk specifics. Our workflow centers on two distinct AI platforms, and understanding when to use each one of these are fundamental to this entire approach. The first tool we're going to talk about today is going to be Notebook LM. Think of it as your case knowledge base. When you upload documents to Notebook LM, it creates what I call a sandbox. The AI can only reference what you've uploaded. It doesn't draw on outside information. It doesn't make things up based on general knowledge. It answers questions exclusively from your case file and provides citations for every answer. The second tool is Claude. Claude is our analyst. It excels at sophisticated reasoning, drafting motions, creating strategic outlines, analyzing legal issues, preparing deposition questions, preparing trial examination questions. Claude's strength is thinking through complex problems and producing high quality written work. Here's the critical point. We don't use these tools interchangeably. Each is optimized for specific functions. Notebook LM is where we establish verified facts. Claude is where we analyze those facts and create work product. The workflow moves from Notebook LM to Claude, not the other way around. Now, next is that some of you might be thinking, why complicate things with two different platforms? Can I just use one AI for everything? The simple answer is no, and here's why. Notebook LM creates that sandbox environment I mentioned a minute ago. When you ask it a question, it can only answer from documents you have uploaded. These documents that you upload, they're called sources, and they can be in PDFs, Word, text, web links, you name it, images, whatever it is. Notebook LM now is fully capable of taking virtually just about anything that you can upload to it. If the answer isn't in your case file, Notebook LM will tell you it doesn't have that information. This dramatically reduces what we call hallucinations. Hallucinations in real life or in our legal world, they're not good. That's when AI invents plausible sounding information that is simply, it isn't true. Claude, on the other hand, has a broader training data. It knows about Indiana law, is that federal procedure, contract principles, general legal knowledge. This makes it incredibly powerful for analysis and drafting. But that same broad knowledge base means Claude can fill in gaps with information that sounds correct, but isn't supported by your specific case documents. So here's our workflow. We use Notebook LM first to establish verified facts. Notebook LM gives us citations we can check. Then we feed those verified facts to Claude for sophisticated analysis and drafting. Now, is that as we go to the next slide is about foundational skills. Is before we dive into technical workflows, we need to establish something more fundamental, the ethical and professional framework that governs everything we do with AI. I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. AI is a powerful tool, but it operates within our professional obligations. In this case, I'm an Indiana trial attorney. I've been practicing law since June 1st, 1984. The Indiana rules of professional conduct don't have an exception for AI-assisted work. Our duties of confidentiality, competence, and supervision apply with full force. In some ways, AI makes these obligations more challenging. You're now responsible not just for your own work, but for recognizing and correcting AI errors before they reach attorneys or the courts. This chapter covers two fundamental skills. First, ethical compliance, particularly around confidentiality and supervision. And second, prompt engineering, how to communicate effectively with AI systems to get the best results needed. These aren't optional skills. They're prerequisites for everything else we'll discuss today. If you don't master ethics and communication, the technical workflows won't matter. You will either violate professional rules or procedure unusable output. Now, is that let's get specific about the ethical obligations. I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but I am going to spend time on it because it's incredibly important. Under the rules of professional conduct in the state of Indiana, Rule .16, it talks about confidentiality. And here, what's meant, it means that AI, you cannot upload raw client data to cloud-based AI without proper redaction. Put a full stop on before you can positively know that there is no violation of social security numbers, financial account numbers, names of minors, medical record numbers, addresses, phone numbers. All of this must be removed before any document touches an AI platform. Why? Because once you upload data to a cloud-based AI, you cannot guarantee what happens to it. You can't guarantee it's deleted. You can't guarantee it's not used for training future models. The only safe approach is to never upload confidential information in the first place. Now, as we go on to the next screen, let me give you a concrete protocol for redaction. On the left, you'll see the categories of information that must be redacted before AI processing. Full names get reduced to initials. John Smith becomes JS. Social security numbers become that are the last four digits only. Financial account numbers are removed entirely. Specific addresses become general locations. Southern Indiana, Bloomington, dates of birth become age ranges. Medical record numbers and driver's license numbers come out completely. On the right-hand side, we see best practices. Create a clean, redacted version of every document for AI upload. Don't try to redact on the fly. Create a separate file that's safe to upload. Critically, maintain a reference key in secure locations, not in the cloud, linking your redacted identifiers back to actual client information. JS in your AI work needs to connect back to John Smith somewhere secure. Now, as we move to the next screen here, is that AI doesn't reduce your professional responsibilities, it amplifies it. You're now responsible for your own work product, plus recognizing and correcting AI errors. That's a heavier burden, not a lighter one. 3 critical practices. First, document your process. In my office, I have a form that documents any use of AI on any project. Second, never misrepresent AI work. Be transparent with your supervisors. Is people like myself that have used AI for some level of frequency, I can generally pick out certain things that are generated by AI. I've been working with it for so long. There are certain things that the AI person that's pretty well endowed with the expertise, and I believe that I'm on my way to becoming one of those people. I can generally pick out some AI stuff and know, in some cases, even know what form of AI that was used to generate it. Another thing is this: commit to continuous learning. AI capabilities evolve rapidly. The tools you learn today, I'm finding that as I learn more and more AI, is I find out if I don't stay up with it virtually almost every day, as I'm already behind the curve, so to speak, if not doing so. Now let's talk about how to actually communicate with AI systems. The skill is called prompt engineering, and it's the difference between getting useful output and getting garbage. That old saying, garbage in, garbage out, very, very, very true with prompting. If you don't put in a good prompt, you're not going to get a good result. Now, AI is pretty darn sophisticated, so even some of the beginners can put in a prompt to get something decent. But if you want to get past just decent and you want to get something that actually performs at a level of a degree that you really truly want it to do, then AI prompting is where you need to be. Think of AI as a brilliant but brand new associate who knows the law but knows nothing about your specific case. They've read every textbook, but they haven't read a single document in your file. Your prompts must provide all the context and guidance that a brilliant but clueless associate needs. Look at the 5 elements of an effective prompt, and I have those on the screen now. Context. What kind of case is this? What jurisprudence? Always Indiana for my purposes, and what's the procedural posture? Role. Who should the AI act like? A senior litigation paralegal, opposing counsel, a skeptical judge? The roles shape the analysis. Task. What specifically do you want to have done? Vague instructions produce vague output. Specific instructions produce usable work product. Format. How should the output be structured? Do you want a table, an outline, a narrative? Tell the AI explicitly. Constraints. What limitations apply? What verification requirements? What should the AI not do? Now, as we moved on, is that let's talk about that new associate mental model. I want to drill down on this mental model because it's crucial for understanding how to work with AI effectively. Picture a talented new associate fresh out of law school. They graduate top of their class. They know legal principles code, but they just started at your firm this morning. They've never seen your case file. They don't know your firm's preferences. They don't know how you organize documents or what supervising attorney wants. Would you hand that new associate a deposition transcript and say, summarize this? Of course not. They come back with something generic and probably useless. You'd give them context. What kind of case is this? What are you looking for? How does the attorney want information organized? AI is exactly the same. It has the vast legal knowledge, but zero case-specific context unless you provide it. Unlike a human associate, AI won't ask clarifying questions. Now, in some cases, you can actually set it up where AI will ask you questions to be able to better fine-tune the prompt. And there are some prompt optimizers out there that will do exactly that. Look at the example in the box. Poor prompt, summarize this deposition. What does that even mean? Summarize how? For what purpose? Is that, and I have my picture over that, and I do apologize for that part of it, is that now as we go on to, let's head over to anatomy. I wanted to go over anatomy and effective prompt, but I've gone kind of a step further. But in any event, is that we'll go back and talk just briefly is that when we walk through the anatomy of a good prompt, it starts with role assignment, then context. Context does matter. Then the specific text, the format specification, and finally the constraints, as we talked about just a minute ago. Now, next is that we're going to go to phase one, which is an intake and case development. Now, we transition from foundational skills to practical workflow. We're going to walk through the complete AI-enhanced case lifestyle, starting with intake. Most firms treat intake as a necessary administrative step. Collect the information, open the file, move on. That's a missed opportunity. When you apply AI to intake immediately, you transform the chaotic client information into structured, actionable intelligence before the case even formally begins. You identify gaps in the evidence while the client's memory is fresh. You create timelines before witnesses forget details. You spot weaknesses in your case when there's still time to do something about them. The foundation of every case begins with intake. Get it right, and everything downstream flows more smoothly. Get it wrong, and you're playing catch-up for the entire case. Now, inconsistent intake creates downstream inefficiencies. When every attorney or paralegal collects information differently, you waste hours later reformatting, searching for missing data, trying to reconstruct timelines from fragmented notes. The universal client intake form, I've labeled it as a template, and I will add that to my presentation that you'll have access to, is in the materials, solves this problem. It creates a consistent structure across all case types. Look at the core intake elements on the right. Is that complete party identification, who's involved and what's their roles, chronological timeline of the key events, what happened and when, preliminary legal issue identification, what claims and defenses are we looking at, evidence currently in client's possession, what do we have to work with, witness list with contact information, who can testify and how do we reach them, opposing parties and their representation, who are we dealing with across the table. This standardization isn't about being rigid. It's different practice areas require customization, but the core elements remain constant. Here's why this matters for AI. When you hand intake notes to AI tools, the data needs to be organized in a predictable format. Inconsistent intake creates inconsistent AI output. Standardized intake enables standardized AI processing. Now, once your intake notes are digitized and properly redacted, we immediately apply an AI analysis to identify weaknesses and missing evidence. This is called gap analysis, and it's one of the most valuable AI applications in case development. Look at this prompt. It's designed to make the AI think like opposing counsel. You are an experienced opposing counsel in Indiana. Review these intake notes from a skeptical perspective. Identify every factual gap, missing piece of evidence, and weakness in the client's current narrative. For each gap identified, specify what document or witness testimony we need to obtain immediately. Now, why frame it this way? Because your client told you their version of events from their perspective. That's natural. But you need to see the case the way your opponent will see it, skeptically, looking for holes. The AI analyzes the facts through an adversarial lens. It identifies weaknesses that might not be obvious during an emotional intake conversation with a stressed client. It generates a prioritized list of evidence to pursue. This is a proactive case development. Instead of discovering 6 months into litigation that you don't have critical evidence, you identify the gap from the first get-go, if you will. Now, let me show you what gap analysis output looks like in practice. This table was generated from an AI review of intake notes in a commercial lease dispute. Look how it transforms abstract concerns into concrete action items. First row, no documentation of lease modification discussions. Risk level, high. Second row, client claims property damage but no photographic evidence. Risk level, high. Third row, witness, A mentioned, but no contact information provided, medium. Fourth row, unclear timeline and notice delivery, risk, medium. Fifth row, no evidence of financial damages, qualifications, risk level, high. So what we're doing here, we're doing an initial kind of what we call a gap analysis output, for example. Now, here is another intake application that saves enormous time. The fact sorter prompt. Clients rarely provide information chronologically. They tell stories emotionally. They jump to whatever upset them the most, then backtrack to provide context, then skip forward again. That's how humans communicate traumatic events. It's natural, but it creates chaotic intake notes. The fact sorter prompt transforms this chaos into a structured timeline before you even begin formal case setup. Let's look at this prompt. You're a paralegal creating a case chronology. Extract every date, event, and action mentioned in these client notes. Create a table with columns for date, event description, source/witness, and verification status. If a date is approximate or unclear, note approximate or needs verification in the verification status column. Sort all entries chronologically from the earliest to the latest. The key elements here are you're extracting every date and event, creating a structured table, and flagging uncertainty. That last part is crucial. AI shouldn't present guesses as facts. It should tell you what needs verification. Is that when you run into this on an intake note, you get a preliminary chronology in minutes. This forms the backbone of your case timeline and immediately reveals where your date information is solid versus where you need more investigation. Now, timing matters in case development. Let me walk you through when to apply these AI tools for maximum benefit. Within 24 hours of an intake, run the gap analysis. Client memory is freshest right after the intake meeting. Document preservation is still possible. Witnesses haven't moved or become hostile. This is when gap analysis has the most value. Before initial case setup, deploy the fact sorter to create your preliminary chronology. This informs your document organization strategy. It helps identify time-sensitive filing deadlines, statutes of limitations, notice requirements, claim filing deadlines. During evidence collection, as new documents arrive, update your AI-generated timelines and gap analysis. These become living documents that track case development, not static snapshots. I can't stress that enough. You got to continually update as you put more information into the system, so to speak. Pre-pleading strategy session. Before the attorney drafts the initial complaint, present them with your comprehensive intake analysis. Show the verified facts, the identified gaps, and the preliminary legal research. This enables more strategic initial pleading decisions. The common thread here is speed. AI lets you accomplish in hours what used to take days. That speed advantage only matters if you use it properly. Apply AI immediately, not when you get around to it. Now, is that we now get to the core of the AI workflow. And the workflow for me is Notebook LM. This is where your case knowledge base lives. The proper setup here determines the quality of everything that follows. Notebook LM isn't just a document repository, it's an intelligence system. But that intelligence depends entirely on how you structure it. The way you name files, you organize folders, and load sources determines the quality of AI responses throughout the entire case lifecycle. Think of it this way. Notebook LM is only as good as the foundation you build. You heard me say it before, that garbage in, garbage out. But if you construct that foundation properly, Notebook LM becomes an incredibly powerful tool for managing case information. Let's walk through exactly how to set up Notebook effectively. Now, I'm going to go here in a few minutes and we're going to do actually a live demonstration of Notebook and get away from some of this kind of put you to sleep discussion or listening to me speak. But in any event, before we go further, what I want to do is I'm going to pull up on my screen here in a second in another portion that I've kind of pre-recorded of Notebook LM, and I'm going to navigate through Notebook LM, and I'm going to basically walk you through it and show you some different parts of it. And before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fast forward through my slides here for a second, make for sure we cover this, because I'm going to spend the better part of the balance of our time actually with a live demonstration. Now, the foundation document is basically I talk about this, and everything that I'm talking about right now will be part of items that'll be available to provide to any of the paralegals attending this seminar today. Additionally, I do sincerely mean this when I say this is please feel free to reach out to me. The best way to reach out to me probably is through my Gmail, which is I monitor that very closely. I get way too much email on my official email, but if you have a question or you even want to jump on a quick a Zoom or something like that on some matter, feel free to reach out to me. Is for my future after 42 years of practicing law, I do actually want to go into the AI consulting world for paralegals and lawyers. So this is something I do want to do for quite some time. Now, as I kind of just click on my screen over here, is I've now moved my screen to my left screen. So you'll see me kind of move over in this way. I'm just going to kind of just go through some of the steps here. And then we look up here, we're going to be talking a little bit about this Claude handoff. Is there's different AIs out there.